What are some key exercises that can help young athletes build foundational strength to minimize injury later in life?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I'm glad people are asking this one. We just recently had one of our former coaches that was here for quite some time, Ryan Reyes, was on the show, and we talked a lot about training youth athletes, but more specifically, like without even categorizing them as athletes, like training the youth that's out there, and specifically around like what's a good process for this, and how do we be process driven instead of outcome driven, right? And more specifically, like what are the things that these kids need in order to over time progress to be in a position to then express this athleticism that they're starting to gain as they're maturing and being less awkward, and the different stages of life and things and based on their sport that they may be playing or just the life that they're living, right? Great question. So the question is specifically around like what exercises. I'm going to start with getting people to stop thinking about it as exercise, right? Like that would be my first piece of advice. Get your kids to move. Get them to move more, and get them doing it in a way that's fun.
It's play.
Where they get to play. Yeah. And part of that is sometimes forcing them, being the parent and parenting them into getting off the couch, away from the iPad, the video game, the whatever, and getting out and just playing. Somewhere along the line, kids just stopped playing. Yes. And maybe there were a lot of kids that were sitting on a couch somewhere in a room reading a book, but we saw way more kids out playing than anything else. So I would say get your kids out moving and start that with the play. And I think the sooner you can start that with them, the better. And find something, because then they get exposure to a lot of different things and they can figure it out, and you can figure it out on how to help get them into the place that makes the most sense for them. But playing is important because it most oftentimes means moving. Kids are going to naturally do that. Not playing a video game, playing something, right?
Physically moving,
Physically moving
there's
around.
so much that can come from playing as far as just coordination and
hand-eyes.
Thank you. Coordination and balance, and, being reactive and learning how to have upper body strength and lower body strength as well, and how to use your body unilaterally. And, you were talking about playing. And one of the things that I remember as far as with Callie being smaller or being little, and one of the things that the schools and daycares took away was some of the playground equipment. And I think it's really shameful because, monkey bars. I was on the monkey bars all the time. And to be able to move your body weight and to support your body weight as a kid, and then how that translates as you get older, grip strength, absolutely. And how that translates when you get older and you decide that you want to go into organized sport or whatever. And, I feel like that was really unfortunate because not just the monkey bars, but then bars in general, sit on them and spin on them and,
kids get
hold
hurt.
on to them. But it became a liability. But you know what?
That's what happens
also
when you
built
play.
some resilience, right?
Fucking A.
Get up, knock off the dust, let's go.
Is that shit broken? No, then you're going to be just fine. So they're going to get better. It's going to get worse.
Is it broken? Are you bleeding? Let's go.
Get back in there and play. I agree.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's fun. I started training recently. I don't know if you guys saw, I started training the 15-year-old in the gym. And, I'm doing some of the basic movement patterns with him. But half the time, too, I'm just also playing with, like, we're literally throwing a ball. I'm doing little races with him, different stuff like that. And he's not even a young kid. So even if you're younger, it's even more fed into that. So I think that's just moving and playing. And then I think a big component about this is not getting your kid pigeonholed in one sport too soon. I see that so much, so much.
It's all baseball all the time.
And that's
whatever.
Yeah. So they're in their school sport of whatever, hockey, volleyball, football, whatever. And then as soon as that season ends, they go into the club version of it and they're playing a sport year round, which that's really a lot of that is, again, yes, there's good with getting into exercise and things like that, but having them play different sports where they're getting different forces, where they're having to move in different ways, where they're having to get different hand-eye coordination, different development. Like, don't get your 8-year-old in one sport and have them not play another sport or other activity for the rest, and until through their adolescence. So
I think there's a lot of drivers to that. I think parents get comfortable. There's also like, oh, my kid's really good at that. Well, he keeps practicing that skill. He's going to get better at it, but does that mean he's going to be a professional athlete or get the college scholarship or whatever else? The reality of that is probably not. But the point of that being is like, I get that you find that routine. There's the friend group. There's the social aspect that goes with that. But yeah, down the line, there's so many things that get left off the table.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know what I hear probably the biggest reason is from parents, because I talk with them, is always that, oh, well, if I don't, they're going to get left behind because all the other kids are doing that. Their skills are going to get left behind because they're not continuing into the next lesson and doing it again and doing it again and constantly doing it. So
yeah, but again, going back to the consistency, well, you don't know that because you've never tried it. And doing it one time doesn't count.
Yeah.
Right. You got to continually do it and you just have to accept that. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is like what exercises, they just need to know how to move their body.
Yeah.
So learning how to run, learning how to fall down, that's an exercise, right? Learning how to get up, that's another exercise.
Yeah.
Learning how to move sideways, that's an exercise. And when you're involved laterally is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like spinning around and rotating and again, falling down and being awkward. Those are the exercises. Those are the movements, particularly at the younger ages.
Yeah.
Right. And then as they progress, based on their progression and where they are in their maturity process and their experience process, then you can start layering on other things. And those basic things are, can this kid squat? Right? Can this kid pull? Can they push? Push-ups. Bodyweight squats, right? Can they do like an inverted pull-up, right? Like on we used to have the parallel bars at the park, or on the playground. We don't fucking have those anymore. But doing an inverted pull-up, those kind of pulling themselves up onto equipment or things like that. Those are the exercises that your kid needs. They don't need exercise equipment. They need to get outside and climb through the exercise equipment that's provided for them in life, which is fences and buildings and rocks at the park and benches and, bicycles and, swinging bats and kicking balls and catching balls and all that kind of stuff. Like get outside and have a catch with your fucking kid in the front or the backyard or in the park across the street. Have a catch, right? Hand-eye coordination. Yeah, it might be a little painful for you as a parent to get through that and whatever, but it might be good for you to get out there and also move your ass. Those are the exercises that I think kids need to do. And then as they progress, yes, there's a time and place to start introducing things like resistance training. But if your kid doesn't know how to move, they have no business being loaded.
Control.
Yeah, exactly. Move with control. They don't have any business being loaded with weights.
Yeah.
So when that starts happening, they're human beings.
Yeah.
And the application of resistance training should be applied to them just the same as it is anybody. It's not going to stunt their fucking growth. It's not going to do things to their growth plates. It's not going to mess them up.
Applied appropriately.
If applied appropriately, they should be doing these things. But they shouldn't be running with parachutes, doing fucking plyo jumps with weight vests on, all this kind of stuff when they're that young. Those are advanced movements. And if they can't, again, going back to the other question we had about like, those are speed and power type things. If they don't have the base level strength and ability to move and control that, well, then they have no business being in some type of an exercise progression where we are now loading the speed and power movement.
Yeah.
Like, so things to think about. I would never pick and say, these are the best exercises. I would just say, if you're thinking about exercise as something with a barbell or a dumbbell or a kettlebell or whatever else, yeah, there's utility on all that shit, but your kid needs to move.